New format for Further North this week. We're answering your fan questions, so buckle up.
Now Majak Door. He's got the runner inside Majak. He tried the shimmy and the sidestep. Use the 15. How good is that?
Welcome back, everybody. Further North, here we go. Another day, another North Melbourne loss, unfortunately, but there's plenty of talking points in this one, and I think there's a lot more to take from this than maybe our initial reaction. But Joel is back, the best North Melbourne mind in the game. His quote, not mine. Welcome back, Joel. I've stitched up there.
Oh, no, geez, thrown under the bus. No, it's good to be back. It's obviously the loss wasn't ideal, but I think there is a lot of positives to take away from it still, and some good still to take away, hopefully.
Look, up at the SCG, never a happy hunting ground for us. 84-53 was the final score. Heavy rotation for North in this one as well. Let's talk about just your thoughts and initial reaction on the changes when they were announced.
They made sense to me to an extent, like as you touched on in your pod earlier as well about Cherry going down and wanting the two ruckmen to replace him. Obviously, that didn't last too long in the game, but the mix between CCJ and Teakle was obviously a plan into that game. I thought we were going in a bit taller than I would have liked. Bench, I loved seeing coming in. But yeah, no, and Aldi wasn't obvious. And the people that went out, not overly surprising here nor there. I mean, Hansen Jr. I thought was a bit unlucky, but that being said, I'm not going to, die on that hill for him. So it's just a good watch though. So I was happy enough with the changes. I thought there was a bit to take away from it still.
Yeah. And going into the game, I don't think anyone was expecting a win, right? Yeah. And as much as we want the club to win and we love the place and that sort of stuff, the hopes weren't high. But I think, and we'll dive into this more, and we've got some listener questions which we're going to go into with the new format of the Further North podcast here to see if everyone likes this. So please, if you're on YouTube, subscribe first and then put your thoughts on this new format down below because I want to make sure it nails it for you guys. I think even though the game was flat, right, and it was frustrating, I think I was frustrated because we were kind of in it and we actually competed pretty well in this one, even though we did end up going down. But with all the changes, especially CCJ and our ruck stocks getting hit really early, I don't know. I still feel like we battled up until that last quarter and then did fall away, which I was actually quite frustrated at. And I think I'm going to come at it a little bit more negatively maybe in the last quarter, just because I think we had more than enough to try. But I think we competed okay. I know this is clutching at straws and we want better from the club, and I absolutely do. But if that effort's there every week, we get some of those players back and we play teams more around our calibre, I still think we've improved massively this year.
Oh, we've definitely improved massively. It's it's frustrating not to get the results, but there was one that I sort of saw them talking about a while ago, like a couple of seasons ago when the going was really, really tough, is that one thing that you can look towards is your percentage. And it shows realistically how long you're in games and shows that you're more competitive. And I think what we saw what we've seen so far is our percentage is a lot healthier than it was last year. Last year, I think we were sitting around 60%, and the year before around
59 point something, I think.
Which is horrendous when you think about it.
Awful.
That's basically every opponent's doubling you.
Yeah.
So this, we've been in games all along. Like this game at 3/4 time, realistically, unfortunately, we've been having these fourth quarter drop-offs and significant fourth quarter drop-offs. But at 3/4 time, we were really quite in this game, and it was 2 goals, 1 goal with, a little bit left in that third quarter, and we just let a couple go. But we put ourselves in with an opportunity to have a crack at the win. Unfortunately, when I've been with you a couple of times, when we get to that fourth quarter, you're sort of like, yeah, this is where it turns.
I've seen this story 1,000 times.
And it wasn't, and unfortunately, it's not been wrong of us yet this season, really. We had a small patch in the middle where we were starting to be a bit more mature in that space, but we haven't been for a majority of this season, and that's really where we need to be picking up on our games.
Yeah, well, look, this podcast here, we're going to break it up a little bit. So we're still going to do our general thoughts and we'll go to the forwards, backs and mids. But we've reached out to the fans. Facebook and Instagram are the two places to get me. I've given up on Twitter and I apologise. I'll try to get back to the messages as much as I can, but I'm a busy boy. Please follow the Facebook, follow the Instagram. Every week we're going to be doing your thoughts and your questions, and we're going to ask them on the pod, okay? So we're going to start here and we're going to just do general thoughts. Then we're going to go into it a little bit more. and it sort of touches on what we just started talking about, but I want you to dive in deeper. This is on Facebook from Nicholas Ed Pascoe. Joel, directed straight at you, mate. Doesn't want my thoughts. What improvement have you seen? I'm struggling to see it. What improvement this year have you seen? We've talked about percentage, but give us some on-field, maybe visible stuff.
Yeah, well, for me, like the improvement that I've seen personally is a lot around that clearance work and that domination of ball control. There's areas of the game now where we are comfortably and clearly winning for good chunks of it. That hasn't been true for quite a few years now. Like you look at even the game yesterday at this point. For good chunks of the game, I genuinely felt like we were outperforming Sydney. Like we just were not getting the result on the board, and like this is where the issue with our game is coming at the moment is their ability to transition from their back line to their forward line is way too easy, and they're scoring very efficiently from that. And you'll hear Clarko often talk about that. He uses the term polish for it, but it's their efficiency going forward. And we, a number of times when we've got control of the ball and got control and moving the thing, we're not getting that same polish on that last kick. What the hope would be is that next year you sort of address that. And if we're addressing that and we can fix those two aspects of our game, you'll see us, like halfway through that game, I genuinely think we probably could have had a 2-3 goal lead from the way we were playing. And I think, most fans watching were similar, like we're controlling the ball to a large extent. What you would hope to see is that next year, instead of being down at those points or the game being very close or being an 8-point game, that we'll be holding those leads longer. The other improvement realistically that we've had is we've stopped teams getting massive run-on scores.
Yeah, so true.
Last year, every single game, there was like a 6 or 7 goal run on us at one point. That's not been happening this year anywhere near as frequently. It does happen still, but it's not every game.
Single game, It's not a guaranteed per game like it was last year.
Yeah.
Like you said with the percentage, we're not getting doubled all the time,
Yeah. And these are the kind of improvements that we have made. Like, obviously, we're not getting quite the results yet, but there has been tangible improvement from last year. The hope is that next year we take it a step further, like a few errant kicks here and there that we've made. Like, we can talk about individual times that have happened, but realistically, it's a team effort at this point, and we're just not choosing the right times to go fast and the times to go slow is the other thing that you hear, and that's fairly reasonable, I thought, but not on the offensive side at least.
Yeah, Clarko pointed that out in his press conference as well. One of the journos asked that sort of question. That's totally right. I agree with what you said. Like, there was so many good passages of play for us here. And it was the final kick, or she's missed a handball when we were out, and it just went straight back over our heads for a goal. But as frustrating as that is, it's one handball away from us being a really dangerous attacking team. And that is the improvement this year. The SCG must be all of 40 metres long, mate. That is the shortest ground I've ever seen. So, the Swans play that so well. It's, for me personally, I reckon it's the only ground in the league with a proper advantage, like a massive, massive advantage. Other grounds, I get it, home and away support. It's a little bit wider. It's not, that ground is insane. How the AFL goes, yep, that's okay to do that to a football ground is wild. So, look, I mean, you mark it about 10 metres outside there, 50, which I doubt is 50. And, you're putting that through post height nearly. Yeah. So, they play it very, very well. But there was so many great transition passions to play for us. There was one through the middle of the ground, these little dinky handballs. Constanti, I think, powered. Sheezer was involved. And we ran straight through the guts and carved them up. And I think it was a mark to Curtis. And he kicked a point, I think. But, that still generated a shot on goal. Yeah. The biggest thing for me is our entry into the 50 is still shocking. Like, every single kick was just a long kick to the top of the square. And I still just don't understand how we're not trying to find different avenues. I mean, Colby had a run through the middle of the ground and just did this beautiful little kick straight. I think it was Curtis again. Potentially. I think he didn't even score with it, to be fair. He had a shocker of a day. But defensively, he tackled really well. But look, if we can eventually get Finn O'Sullivan's ahead of the ball a bit more and Colby doing what he's doing, and if Shees can find some form, which we'll dive into a little bit, I do think there's improvement there. There's another question here, which sort of leads on from this. On Instagram, Kevin Frost 59. Did we stay in the game, or were the Swans not good enough to put us away? How did you feel about it? Because I really believe we stayed in that game up until three-quarter time.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, like, first half, our pressure rating was actually quite elite.
Oh man, the pressure was unreal. We were
Yeah.
so fierce at the tackle. And I think, sorry to cut you off really quickly, but
Right.
I think sometimes we get the last quarter fade out, we lose, and then we sort of forget all the good things that we did through that game. Like our pressure was insane. The commentators were praising it on the broadcast, and we were ahead in the second quarter, and we never let the game get completely out of hand till the last quarter. And against a team that's informed like the Swans with no ruckman, your engine room, your spark in Wardlaw, and obviously our key forward gone. I'm not trying to make excuses with injuries. I don't think we would have won anyway, but there's more positive to take there than negative, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the first half pressure rating was really there. Third quarter, it was a bit of an arm wrestle. We let them go a little bit. But I think there was a lot that was doing well. I don't think if it's a once-off and the team just looked particularly poor that we're versing, but when you've got every team that we're playing, we're dragging them with us into those situations where we're, that arm wrestling situation quite regularly. So I think it's not a case of, Sydney just playing poorly. I think it's a case of you play as well as your opponent lets you is always the comment. In the fourth quarter when they started to open up a little bit, why weren't they doing that earlier on in the game? I don't think it's that they necessarily raced the game. I think it's, for me, the way I felt about that game is North dropped off. It felt more like a North drop off than a Sydney rising at that stage. So it's just, there's a lot of positives to take away from me in this game. I mean, obviously, fourth quarter effort's going to be a question, but I sort of suspected this year towards the back end would start to get a bit tireder. Opposed to last year where we had injuries coming back. This year, number one, we've had injuries. And we're a young side, and some of these younger bodies that is, Foss has been, I think, really stellar this year. I think a really underrated quiet year of how good he's been. And your Colbys, your George has been quite sore. Your Riley Hardiman's only second year. Will Dawson now in his second year. And, there's bits and pieces to take away from this still. And it's going to be an interesting way to finish the season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, once again, almost leading on, _ the jellyfish _ on Instagram. Do you think the team needs time or different personnel to tidy up the skill errors that cost us? You just pointed out, a lot of first, second, third year players in there. Is it a matter of time or is it personnel as well?
No, it's always both. There's three aspects that you look at, which is developing the players on your list, drafting and trading. And you've got to use all of those well to become a better side. You look at a side that's really good at the moment, like a Hawthorn or a Collingwood, and they're a mix of everything. They picked up a Jeremy Howe. They picked up, they've managed to get a Dacos in the draft, and they've developed people from deep in, what's his name, Ned Long. They've drafted these guys and they've taken them deeper, and they've just been really good at their recruiting processes. I think we've been good at recruiting. I genuinely think we've got the talent on this list now. It's just a question about, number one, complementing. The bringing in of Parker and Darling and Daniel has helped, I think. And Darling, particularly yesterday, I think was very effective for when he was around the ball. He took a couple of contested marks down the line and helped out a bit. But these are the kind of, we're going to try to draft, by the look of it, a halfback flanker of some description, which I think we're a little bit short on at the moment. So these are the kind of roles. I think we've got the talent there. Once we clean up about 10%, I think we're going to be, if we clean up 10%, we're going to be a mid-table team very quickly, or a competing for that 8th and 7th spot on the ladder. It's just about cleaning that up at the moment.
Yeah, I think, my position going into this year as well was always seen as a bit of a negative compared to a lot of people. But I think, realistically, I feel like how I feel this year is going has given us a much better platform to make a bit of a jump next year compared to what I thought it was going to be this year. Coming out of last season into this season, I just didn't see any fundamental reason why we were going to jump up the ladder at all. And that's why I'd still put us in the bottom 4. I'm not saying I'm some sort of football guru, but, I'm just saying I just didn't see it. I don't understand why people would have thought this year we would have jumped up. I'm not crazy disappointed with this year because I have seen a big improvement. And this is pretty much what I thought we'd be doing. Maybe, to be completely honest, maybe I thought we'd even do a tiny bit more. And we've still got winnable games coming up, and we've still got time to do that. I think it's not a pack up the rest of the season sort of scenario. We've got Richmond, we've got St Kilda, and we play teams late in the season who might be looking to make sure they don't get injuries before finals and things like that. There's still opportunities to win games this year. But for me now, from what we've shown with the percentage being better, the defense is massively, massively improved. Our midfield, as we can see on their day, is one of the better in the league when they're clicking, but then the drop-off can be massive. So if they can tighten that up, once again, I think the forward line's the same. I mean, the forward line felt like it was functioning okay. They just got no service, and that's why we didn't kick a massive score yesterday, but when it was in there, I still felt like we could do something, even though the delivery wasn't ideal. And I think it's a lot down to the midfielders to deliver it better, or the forwards need to learn how to actually lead properly. But I'm still confident from this year, and that we will get it. I think we'll beat Richmond still, and I reckon we can still get the Saints. I reckon that's absolutely doable. Building off 6.5 wins, which once again, I'm taking that draw as a win, because drawing with the reigning premiers for a club where we are, that's a win. Say 6-7 wins, that's absolutely a much better foundation to jump next year. And when I say jump, if we can get to 12th on the ladder or something like that, I think that is a massive step as well. And this is the sort of steps that we need to take. And I think that's going to be more realistic. So I'm still fairly positive, even though there are negatives and things we need to clean up. But I mean, usually the Collingwood fans whinge about their team. It's outrageous. They're top of the ladder and they're whinging about their ball movement this, and our forward line doesn't do this. We're never escaping the negativity, even if we're winning the premiership. You know what I mean? So it's kind of how it goes, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this year, we're not as far away from some of those wins as, this really could have been an 8-win season with a few of these games that we've, let go and put ourselves into good positions in. That being said, that's not the true mark of success. Again, wins or losses at this point, I want to have a winning culture and have us keep on winning and learn how to win in these games, and having these moments is more important. The close finishes that we've had, unfortunately, too many of them, but where we've kept opposition off or we've clawed opposition back, have been really much better than previous years. And so many, I said, we always have recency bias when we've had a bad loss, or when we've had a loss at all, we tend to think this is the worst. But last couple of years, we were out of games at quarter time, or we were out of games at halftime, and not just out, it's a 7-goal, we're down at halftime, and, we're not coming back at that point.
No, it's game done.
Yeah. And when the game would be, the last couple of weeks, even though we've been beaten by a bit, we're not stopping running in the last little bit. We're still, getting a couple of goals here and there and still transition. I think we drop our heads massively, and I think that's a really hard part. That's the hardest part for us to overcome, I think, is the ability to have resilience, because we've lost so often that you sort of expect it at a certain point, I think. So it's that ability to overcome that mental load and to be able to come forward regardless. And that's going to be another room for improvement for us next year.
Well, and two more questions here before we go into some of the different lines, right? So Bo Hawkins on Facebook, was it just me, or did the players look disinterested, especially when we scored to go 12 points down, right? And I sort of felt like that too, where especially, late in the third and the start of the fourth, we just looked like we didn't believe. And I don't think the players felt that way. But you're right, how do you overcome that defeated feeling? It's really, really difficult. And the last question I'll ask here, which is the last discussion point going on from that one, Jared Andrews on Instagram, top 3 candidates for North's next captain. Keen to hear your thoughts. And that's going to lead on to, if we are looking like we're fading, because I did feel personally the body language dropped massively late in the game. And when the game is still there, 3 goals isn't that much, that swaps around so quickly these days, especially, one more of those handballs comes off and we have transition opportunities. So is it a captaincy thing? And I like Jai as a captain. I'm just going to put that out there now. Is it a leadership thing? Is it a coaching thing? Is it the players have to find some more belief and actually buy into what we're doing? What do you think it stems down to?
It's just it's the same thing though. I think it's mentality. So much of sport, as we know, is played above the shoulders. The talent of these guys is immense. And if they were, a lot of them, if they're in other sides and they're in those systems where winning sort of an expectation, I think their game changes a lot. But the hard part for North is always going to be mentally, how do we get past the, like I said, when you get down and the other, as you pointed out a number of times, and fairly so unfortunately, which is when we're going into that fourth quarter, they're going to kick the first goal. And that seems to be fairly consistent.
Well, I've got a note here really quickly. North is so predictable. Always let the first 2 goals of the game in and always the first goal of the fourth quarter. That has happened nearly every single game this year, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think that's, that is a bit of mental resilience. Like the other opposition comes out a lot more ready than us in that fourth quarter for some reason, whatever that might be. Or maybe it's just North sort of knowing, it's happened so often that opposed to doing the processes that have got you to where you are, you pull back on those. That's these are the kind of things that we have to improve on. I think there's a lot of improvement. Captaincy-wise, it's really tough because I wouldn't take it away from Jai yet. And by take it away, I'm not sure who to give it to. I mean, like your obvious ones would be down the track Stiesel, but he's only in his third year. It's a very young, Roland. I think he's also, he's had a bit of a tougher year compared to the last few years. So give him a bit of time just to have that focus. Interesting ones to look at long term. Not as captain necessarily, but he'll be in the leadership group quicker than later would be Riley Hardiman. It sounds like a bit of a fast stretch, but he was captain at WA. He's got a lot of leadership qualities. X, you could probably give a good shout out if you want to go next year to a captain. He leads from the front, really. He's a strong, big body and he works hard. I wouldn't mind seeing Comben in the leadership group over the next little bit. Yeah, I think there's a few players like that you can start to talk about in the leadership group. I mean, Zerha's another one that you wouldn't mind seeing there. He had a really down game yesterday, but our mid-sized forwards were really struggling yesterday. So,
no delivery there, is there? Unless it's Colby doing little cute little kicks, which are just unbelievable. He's my guy. But I agree with you. I think for me, I would love Larky as a captain of this football club. I love just to talk on Jai for a second here, and we're going to dive into him more because I think he was good yesterday, but he's captaining this football club through an incredibly difficult time. An incredibly difficult time. And we need to show a little bit more respect to the man. We're going to talk about him a little bit more, but some of the online comments and the comments on my posts and things were awful for Jai, and I just don't understand what people are watching, or it just feels like they're attacking him because he's the captain, and he's not the greatest player in the league. You know what I mean? So he's captaining this club through such a difficult time. And when it turns, I kind of hope he's still the captain, because he deserves that. The way Larky talks about the club and the dedication to the club, it just screams captain. But, I think Comben is a fantastic shout as well. He feels like he wants to be there and that sort of stuff. So, and the way Comben speaks, I think you listen and you sort of get behind what he does, and he does lead by action. So, I think they're not bad shouts. But look, let's go to the defense, and we'll start talking about some things. We don't have a question on this, so I'm gonna just mention a first thing. Will Dawson straight away before the siren.
He's got mongrel in him. He's got a lot of mongrel.
But then, and to put a slight negative on this,
he was beating pretty well in the first
contest with McLean. He just got absolutely bodied, and you can't be going and being the big tough guy then just to go and get absolutely pummeled in the first couple of contests. And look, he's young. He's going to be a great player. I like Will Dawson, but he loves giving away free kicks, mate. I love how he tries to blanket the bloke, but God, it's free kicks and needs to be a bit stronger in a contest, and he'll get there. I love me some Will Dawson, and I love the fight in him. But I think it cost us a few goals yesterday.
Oh yeah, he absolutely did. It's a developmental process for him. He put on apparently 10 odd kilos last off season. He's got a massive frame, and I think he's going to be an absolute gorilla monster at some stage. And he's fairly athletic for his size. He was beaten fairly well, I thought, yesterday. And, I'm not going to, he's 6 games in, he's 19. He's had 1 off-season 2 off-seasons technically at the club now. Next year is when you really want to see him taking. I think the exposure, McLean's, where he's not a world beater by any means, he's a fairly consistent, good forward.
Yeah, he'll play 200 games and just be there forever because he's really solid.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's a tough matchup for... Dawson's not going to have any easy matchups in them because he's going to be far less experienced than anyone he's versing 90% of the time. So, he's done, he was beaten, I thought, 3 times in that first quarter pretty convincingly. But then after that, there wasn't any of those obvious ones to me. I'm not sure if North changed defensive structures. I think Logan Pink had fairly good games. They actually both held their opponents and held the team's defensive unit as a whole together pretty well, so I wasn't too opposed to them. It was just, players like Heaney getting beaten some people in marking contests. You can look at a pink and go, Heaney beat you. It's like, well, Heaney is arguably a top 5 elite player in the AFL. He's going to beat a lot of people. It's the same thing.
This is the thing with Dacos, wasn't it? Where everyone's like, how do we not, stick the tag on Dacos? Like, because he's really good and no one in the league can stop him.
Dacos. No. And that's it. Dawson, this year for me has been a big success for him. He's 19. He's played a couple of 3 games in a row now. Off another off season, the goal next year for him would be 16 plus games for me. That would be what I'd be targeting for him.
Which should be his spot to lose. I think that's what would be a success for me.
Next year. Yeah,
next year, yes, that's what I mean.
This year, if he went out next week and we decide to go back to Chom, Pink and Logue, I wouldn't be opposed to that. That being said, I don't this is an interesting discussion point as well, is at this time of the year, what's our goal? Do you want to get games into a person like Dawson and potentially risk, bigger scores coming out the other side? Or do you go to be as competitive as possible and try to win as many, where you're putting development of some of these guys a bit further behind? But
it's interesting. I mean, look, I think you can do both. Next week against Geelong, we're not winning that. So you blood whoever you want. You try some things. I'm more than happy to look, but I think we're going to get done by 10 plus goals. Honestly, no, that's seriously, I do. I think we don't have any matchup that can cover any of those guys. Who the hell plays on Jeremy Cameron? Shannon Neal's gonna bully some people down there. You know what I mean? And
Dawson's gonna lock up with Neal. Don't worry.
Well, yeah, it goes for a full Darcy job. So look, that's the sort of game for me where you throw, some things out that we wouldn't normally see. But then the next week, you make sure Larky can get back. Don't play Larky against the Cats. I don't want to see him anywhere near that game. You make sure his knee is right. You bring him in against the Saints. He doesn't need a week back. He's played enough football in his life. He's a good enough player. Mm-hmm. Richmond, St Kilda, balls to the wall, blood in your eyes, tackle and put them in the turf. And then other games, like the Cats, we can go on and be like, let's try a few things. Give Banch another crack and all that sort of stuff. So they're the things for me. I know some people don't agree with that. Some people we have to go out and try and win every game. And I think that's a good mentality to have. But as a coach, the players can have that mentality, but the coach moves the magnets around a bit. The coach wants to win every single game, of course, but he's also moving the magnets around to get games into these guys as well.
Yeah.
So
that's the exact point. It's sort of they're talking about next week. They just put up on the website a little while ago talking about Goad being a potential in next week. That would be very early for Goad.
But why not? We're going to talk about Goad in a second. There are some questions about that, but why not? We're not doing anything in this game. Play Goad and Teakle, mate. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's the exact sort of questions that we're going to have to ask coming forward. When these players, do you give chop outs to get some of these younger guys games in the sea? I don't mind at this time of the year. We're out of the finals calculation, not that we're really in it.
But you can do both as well. You don't just pack it up and you don't just go for it. You can mix and match per game, and I think that's what Clarkson can do. He's one of the better coaches we've seen in the AFL. But you can have your questions about him and whatever. But no denying what he's done, no denying his achievements in the game, and his tactical ability is good. So no one is thinking we're winning next week. And we're not going to win that game. And that's okay because we're not meant to mess with those teams. I want to beat the Saints and I want to beat the Tigers. And if we do that, I reckon this season is still a plus. A big tick, a plus. And we fought yesterday. We did. And I know we faded out. I understand that. And that's not good enough. But we're a bunch of 14-year-olds, on a field still. People need to remember how bad of a football club, even last year and the last 5 years before that, we were. We're building from probably the lowest base I've ever seen a club build from in the AFL. You look at your Richmond. West Coast is, potentially, that is true. They let me down yesterday because Richmond's now gone ahead of us. So that does suck. Okay. But, I think we'll get them in Tassie. But, I just think we need to be a little bit more objective with we are bad. That's okay because we're going to get better. So, look, let's go on to a couple more questions here. He played in the forward line, but he is a defender now. Charlie Comben. Got a couple of questions about him and we're going to talk about it. On Instagram, Lexi Keenan _ thoughts on Chom's position. As much as we'd love one Chom forward and one Chom back, can we afford to just put him up front? And then we've got another question here about it from Jesse Stevenson on Facebook. Do you think Chom needed to go back in the back line earlier? We actually saw him clunking marks in that fourth quarter when he was back. We also had no delivery into the forward line in the fourth, so didn't actually get to see what Dawson can do forward. Give me your thoughts on Chom for this game, because is that the piece you would have thrown forward?
Well, I mean, yet again, this also comes down to that balancing of a list part, which is Dawson, you need to give consistency in a spot. And I think the club's been very, very poor at doing that for him. He's been forward and back so many times this year and chucked into the ruck. They're probably trying to figure out where to put him and a bit of utility. Chom, moving forward, isn't the worst option at stages. We know he can play forward. We know he is a forward to start off with. I'd probably leave him as a back at this point. I just think he's a better backman. But then that being said, if we're playing him as that floating back and that, taking that taller guy, we're sort of taking away the opportunity for Dawson to do that at AFL level. So I don't think they can both play the same role in that back line currently as the way it was, and particularly against Sydney's, who wasn't an overly tall forward line either. So that's probably why they've done it. Yeah, I think it's a tough one, but I just think he's a back to me, Chom. I don't mind seeing him go forward for the development of Dawson in that situation. Dawson, as a forward, hasn't really shown anything at AFL level near it. And I think with the exception of one or two VFL games, he hasn't really shown a lot for me in the VFL either. But as a back, he's shown a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Chom's a defender now. So don't stop putting him forward. Throwing him forward late game or something like that. We've seen even Kerno gets thrown back sometimes, or, we saw Aiden Core go forward in a game, didn't we, at some point?
We did.
So, I don't hate that, but the guy's a defender. I think Combat and Dawson, you're building around those pillars in the back line right now. Logue is, I guess, the one where his archetype of player, I think, is perfect next to those guys. You just want him to be a little bit better. But, Chom didn't have a good game forward. He really got nothing. There was a couple of almost moments with him, kicked a point which I thought was going through the goals. But, the forward line as a whole just didn't get much opportunity in that game, so I'm not blaming him particularly. He's a defender. He's, 23 years old? Keep him down there. Stop trying to play him. The shoulder strapping on him looked like some sort of Imperial Star Wars sort of suit that they're walking around the Death Star with at times. But, I'm a bit nervous about that. So I'll get through to the end of the year safe, please, Chom. But he's a defender. You there's your pillars down there.
Yeah.
It's more of a question about the selection, I think, because we all had worries about how many key position players. We saw this last time against the Swans as well. We went in with 4 key position when Whitlock debuted, and we go, well, who's everyone going to cover? So let's have a chat about the key defenders really quickly. I think Pink did well all day. He took a few good intercepts and battled hard. What did you think about Logue? I feel like Logue was playing on Will Hayward a lot of the time, and he's someone that I really like. Will Hayward. I think he's a really dynamic player in the forward line, and he's someone that I would love, on North. Even though I think he's maybe a little bit bigger, more of a key than Zerha is, but I think they're similar-ish types of players. But what do you think of Logue's game, and maybe throw in a bit of Pink in there as well?
I thought Logue and Pink acquitted themselves quite well. Heaney was off the chain, and a couple of times. I think both of them had a different go at him. But
that's more a midfield thing, though, isn't it?
But when he rotates
someone's
forward,
got to cover him forward, yeah.
And when, I think a couple of contests they had him, but, it's Heaney. Heaney's just very, very good. Our weakest defender on the day was Dawson. And Pink and Logue, I think, were more than reasonable in their role. I don't think we got particularly heavily beaten by any of their forwards, with the exception of Heaney, who kicked 5. Yeah. I think we defended fairly well in our defensive aspect. So those guys, I think, did well. Hardiman and Foss were, I thought, very, very good in their roles. Daniel, I don't think, let us down particularly with anything that he was doing. Kirch off the half-back line, he got tagged for good portions of that game, apparently. And you could see that, he wasn't getting the ball out the way that he usually does. Yeah. So, our back line I wasn't actually knocking too much. I think wasn't the backs. It was transition. And
it was
that's
the mids delivering to the forwards, I think, and getting, you're right, killed on transition, which, there's so much work for the midfielders to do in there, though. But look, that's their job. So that's their job, and other teams seem to
get there. It's just,
yeah.
They'll get there. They've improved on it hugely. Like, I mean, some of those scores in the first half of the year is like 130s, 140s against us, and that was all coming from transition, I reckon. Like, as soon as they got that 45-degree kick into the centre, they were off to the races. But Sydney did it a couple of times, but I think we covered it. Like, whenever there's a long kick down the line, even if they mark it, I mean, you don't want them marking, but if you do a long kick down the line, that's a win for the defensive team. We do it all the time.
We try and switch to, and we try and go quick, and it just stagnant, man. I've said this to so many times. We're the slowest switching team to ever play. I don't think I've ever seen a switch work for North Melbourne. It always just ends up on the other flank and a kick down the line, to be honest.
Yes, that's pretty accurate, unfortunately. I think Clarko the last two off seasons has, and if you watch the preseason stuff, it's very interesting, but the last two preseasons he's worked really, really hard on trying to develop the fast-moving game pace, like Rue Ball or Kangaroo, whatever we're calling it.
North Ball, mate.
North Ball, there we go. And he's been
trying. That tattooed on your chest by now.
Not until we start successfully doing it.
There you go. Premiership year.
Premiership year. But North Ball, they've been trying to get that faster transition, but every time we do that, we just leak out in defensive.
The skills aren't quite there.
Too much. They're not quite there yet under the pressure and movement.
It's also the positional movement from everybody as well. Like, the spread isn't there for us as well, and we run out of numbers and end up hoofing it down the line. So I think that happens a lot as well. Let's talk about Caleb Daniel, because once again, another week we're heavily criticised. He does everything wrong, can't kick. 85% disposal efficiency, 27 touches and only 3 turnovers again. I think he was one of our better on the day, personally, Caleb Daniel. Is the criticism online just people have decided they hate him regardless of what he does now, or, are we missing something here, Joel?
No, it's he cost a lot to get across, so people are going to dislike him because of that. And like, you look at he's taken on the most aggressive kicks. He's the one trying to bring that up halfback. I mean, I love Colby. I think he's a great
Colby,
player.
Mate. You know that.
He had about 3 or 4 woeful turnovers, like absolutely horrendous turnovers, and a couple that resulted directly in goals over his head. Do we want him to stop playing the style? No, absolutely not. He's got to take on those kicks, and he's going to start nailing them. He's good enough to nail them.
Because the ones he does pull off, it opens us up, mate. I mean, look, we've already pointed off that little one he's run through the middle and hit someone perfectly in the chest, and some of the things he does out of that back line to drive us forward and free us up. Like, it's interesting. Like, I think one way to look at it as well, we look at Hardiman and we love Hardiman so much, but his kicks are just long down the line. And because it doesn't result in a direct turnover into a goal, even though it could be an intercept on the wing, we don't criticise it as much. But a player like Colby, who's good, is probably the best in the team, and they're bad will cause a turnover and a goal against us. We've got to be more objective than that, because and Hardiman's run and meters gained and driving us forward is important, but it's a different style of player, but we try and look at it through the same lens, and I would much rather a player, when Colby's firing, he's going to be the reason we can get out of our defence and actually drive this thing forward and possibly get marks inside the 50 as well. Other than a player like Hardiman, who I'm not criticising at all, but he's not the guy who's going to get the ball and find the player in the corridor that unlocks the passage of play, then we chuck it onto Larky's chest. He's the player that goes, all right, let's get this thing moving. I'm going to run around the back and just hoof this thing down the line and really drive it forward 55 metres away. Yeah,
no, absolutely. You're entirely correct. And I think, as back to Daniel, I think as you were saying, Daniel, I personally feel he's unfairly criticised. I mean, he costs, for me, the cost was too high for him. I think we overpaid. But that being said, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Maybe.
At this point, it's how they're in the list. And he's playing, he's going to play every game this year. I think he's been fairly valuable.
Every game next year too, mate.
Absolutely.
This is what it is.
Absolutely.
Look, I guess, I don't really believe we overpaid only because I think a player like that for North is worth more than a pick 25. I think if you go to a good team, pick 25 is worth way more to Collingwood than Caleb Daniel is. But for us, we've got so many young players. If we drafted another, 18-year-old, who does that take away from in the team? Compared to a guy like Daniel who can actually impart some knowledge. And we, if we didn't do some of those trades, then we all complain that there's no leadership and there's no experience on this team like we did the year before. So look, I get what you're saying though. Like, I guess in a linear market, yes, there was probably overs for Daniel, but the value to North Melbourne Football Club, I don't believe it was overs personally. But look,
agreed. I thought at the time overs, but that being said, I don't disagree. I mean, we do need the leadership. Completely agree with you.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to the midfield because we've talked about this a lot. I don't know, was there any more questions? Oh, there was one more about the defense, but it was from Matt Cooper on Facebook asking about what defenders or what type of defenders should we target in the off season. Is there a specific type of play you want really, really quickly? Like, let's just spend 2 minutes on it because we need to move it on because we're going long.
No problem. The ones that we obviously have been targeting so far are the ones that we need, which is a Maynard. It's a Brandon Starcevic from Brisbane. They're the ones that we've been linked to. Maynard looks like he'll re-sign. Starcevic, I think there's a chance we can get him. But it's going to be that.
Maynard did re-sign, I think. He already did.
Yeah. You look at the players like with Archer and Almac down, Bergman's out for the season. Goda's still coming back off the injury. We're really struggling in that mid-size. Like, the person that would have defended Heaney last night was an Almac or an Archer.
Yeah, and 100%.
We've got no one else in that mould who's doing that at the moment.
Because Goda's and Bergmans are out and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Goda plays a bit toward it, but Goda is, I've got big hopes for him next year. But like he probably plays in that role, but we need that player. We need someone who can defend small and mediums, and we don't have that overly well. Foss is doing well in that role, but Foss is eventually going to move up the ground because he's just too damn good. All
right, let's go to the midfield. Thomas_Iliop on Instagram. I don't think there is much else Bryn Teakle could have done. What do you think about Goad? And then we've got another one here from Luke Gibson on Facebook. I think Goad has to have a crack next week. Had 45 hitouts in the Magoos. Teakle had like 4 in 3/4 of footy. Ladhams had more hitouts than him and played a quarter. Thoughts? I guess 2 parts there. Look, there was a lot of times that I doubt Grundy. Like, I was looking at this, right, because I was checking the score, the stats as we go, and we were getting killed in the hitouts. I was watching them. Some of those hitouts are 50-50, man. I don't know how they track hitouts, mate, because both ruckmen are sort of getting their hand to the ball. I don't know if he got dominated that much. I know the stats suggest otherwise, but once again, I'll always say hitouts are the most overrated stat in the AFL. So, do you think Goad gets a crack? And what did you maybe think of Teakle's performance? Because Teakle hasn't even been rucking in the 2s.
No, he's not a rock in the 2s, unfortunately for him. He was absolutely dominated by Grundy. There's no mark about that. There are a couple of the times where you've seen, like, particularly the longer hit-outs to the boundary line often, where a few of those guys kicked a couple of goals directly from essentially really good taps. North did Teakle, what he did exceptionally well is he competed very heavily for most of them. Like, he was able to, bring it down.
Shift.
Yeah, he put in a shift. Like, he worked really, really hard to just bring the ball to not let the ball go exactly where Grundy wanted it to, essentially. But yeah, so Teakle's not, like, I don't blame Teakle on that game. Like, CCJ was getting absolutely towered before Teakle
came he was, yeah.
Like, Grundy was beating whoever, like, that's why, like, people who don't see the value of X on our list, like, that's what X does. Like, X doesn't lose that contest. He either draws it or, wins it. So, yeah, Grundy absolutely towered Teakle. There's no question mark about it. Goad coming in next week, I think is a good chance. Like, he probably put in his best VFL game. I watch a lot of VFL. He probably put in his best VFL game. He versed a guy, Will Green, who we were looking at taking. He was taking 15, or he was taking a couple of picks ahead of Goad. North were looking very heavily at that guy. And when they first played each other, I think it was last year, Green absolutely towered Goad. Like, beat him so comprehensively that I'm like, oh, what are we even doing with Goad at this point? When they played yesterday, it was the reverse, which shows you how far Goad has come. And either Green's been a bit stagnant or Goad's just really worked hard. But Goad, and commentary is always bad in these things, but they were talking about, Green needs to put on size to beat Goad. It's like, no, they were drafted the same year. Goad's just absolutely... towering him around the field.
Yeah. The unicorn spread his wings, mate.
Yeah. The issue with him around, like, he's going to give very little to nothing around the field this game if he plays Geelong.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind him playing. I don't think like
Teakle or CCJ. I mean, Like Tico had a good moment forward, took a really good mark, sprung up in top of the pack and went back. And I really want to see him as a forward and chopping out in the ruck personally. And I still think he can do it. Like I know even I feel like he was never going to play. And when he got named, I couldn't believe my eyes, to be honest. And I don't know. I still just think he can be an AFL player. And I think, you know, it's probably only one of him and CCJ stays on the list next year. My gut probably says it's probably CCJ gets a year just to see what it can be. But I don't know, mate. I think but I mean, we'll see how bad the calf is, I guess. But it's also very common to get those calf injuries after you come back from Achilles and that sort of stuff. But I think Clarkson pointed out it was actually his other calf.
Opposite,
yeah, so I don't know, man. I just think Tickle's got something, and I think he should be given a chance. I hope he doesn't go out and Goad comes in. I'd like to do the double ruck thing again, but then you got to drop some sort of toll, and I don't know who you drop, to be honest. I mean, everyone would say Logue, but Logue was fine, and we want him playing games. Pink, he was good. It's probably one of his better games the last month and that sort of stuff. You can't drop Chom. You can't drop Dawson after. Well, I mean, you could drop Dawson after that game, but for development, you don't want to. So it's a tough position to be in. But look, we'll see. Let's go to another question here. _ Stephanie Vaughan _ on Instagram. She says, "Hi, Josh. Big fan of the pod and love the work that you do." Thank you, Stephanie. That is so nice. What are your thoughts on Harry Sheezer's positioning? He's one of our cleanest and classiest players, yet the lack of centre bounce attendances baffles me, especially considering how impactful he is. I don't understand what Clarko is trying to do with him, which I think is a completely fair question. And then one to follow up on that on Facebook, Luke Gibson, "I swear if you put Sheezel in the Atlee votes, I will ride. He cost 4 to 5 goals from dreadful turnovers." I love the fans' passion about the Atlee club champ, mate, because people do get very, very passionate about this. But look, back to sort of Stephanie's question there. Sheezel has had a very flat year and he's still good numbers and he's still a good player. But he's had a very down year compared to last year. Not a down year, like a flat year. I think flat is better.
Yeah, flat's probably.
Why isn't he getting centre bounces, especially when like Wardlaw's out and LDU was out last week and all this sort of stuff? Phillips is getting. Why is Phillips getting more centre bounces? And I understand, you know, realistically, Phillips is only a midfield player and Shizu has more to offer around the ground. But like, why aren't we putting him in there anymore? Because he clearly needs to shuffle something. Because when we have the ball and we get that ball forward, he looks great off the half forward line. But the ball didn't go in our forward line, mate. And I just don't understand how we don't move him around a little bit more. I'm just trying to look at his centre bounce attendance as 3 CBAs for the whole game yesterday. So what do we do with Shees?
I mean, personally, I'm not overly convinced he's a midfielder. He came into the league as in the juniors, he was a half forward, half forward, really, flanker. When he came to us half back just to utilise his assets. He's one that often, when you watch him, this is probably where he gets hurt and where Kane and that go after him, which is he tends to slink forward, which isn't a problem. And most great players and good players tend to do a similar thing. The issue is that we're not necessarily, when you don't win the ball from that contest, you look very exposed the other way, which is more of a forward move, it tends to be. But, I just don't, we've got too many mids at the moment, is the way to put it. Like, Powell has to attend centres, and I think he does well in that role. LDU has to be at centres. Phillips has to be at centres.
Wardlaw has to be when he's there.
When Wardlaw comes back, they tried to play Wardlaw off the half forward line a lot the last few games, like not as much in the centre. I would love
if Wardlaw could go forward like they do, even with, I hate him, but like Horn Francis does, or what Harley Reid can do, or Dusty used to do. Like, I really wish we could get to that, Rob, but I don't see it either. But I would love him to be that style of guy. Yeah. Part of me almost goes like, she should play deeper forward then. But then what does Curtis do? What does Zerhard do? So many players, like Cooper Harvey, who we'll get onto in a second, like they're producing. So it's really weird because sometimes floating between half forward, like on the half forward line between the forward and the mid, he gets lost because the ball's never there. And when we get it on the wing and we boot it into the goal square, it goes over his head. This is almost like what I've said about Dylan Stephens for so long, when those sort of games yesterday, when it's just getting booted over his head the whole game and he's not getting a chance to be part of much link-up play, the players basically don't exist on the ground. So I actually think Sheezel should play more in the midfield. He made his name because he was near All-Australian, as as a midfield. I know he played a lot of halfback as well, but, you know, we just lack a bit of polish in there, I think. And Phillips to me doesn't give us much in there. Like he can tag and watch a player okay, and I think he was okay yesterday. Phillips is fine, but I think that's Phillips' ceiling. You know, I think Phillips' ceiling is sort of been reached. I don't think he's going to go to another club and do that. I've seen other people talk about this and think he's going to be a 200-plus game player for another club. I just don't see it. I think this is what Will Phillips is. You know, and I'd almost, when Phillips goes and gets his opportunity somewhere else, I'd sort of like to throw Sheasel in there more and Foss and give him McKercher a little bit more time in there. I think that's a more dynamic midfield along with LDU's Parker's Wardlaws than it is just playing a bunch of guys who all have the same skill set. So I would be putting him in the centre more. I think he's got to get round the ball. This is why we put him at half back originally. This is why we put Colby at half back, Foss at half back. You know, this is why you throw certain players in certain positions to get them around the football, and he just needs more ball, to be honest, because the more ball he has, the more good stuff he does. But I don't know. Does he get the ball? He doesn't really get the ball on the outside as much anymore. He seems to just be a link-up player and not the player to receive it in a position of danger.
No, agreed. I mean, there's obviously something a bit off with his role this year compared to previous. I mean, I don't think, like, I think his last few weeks have been fairly better. Like, he did have...
Been okay, yeah.
Yeah, they've been okay. Like, he's starting to... I think he's figuring out his role a bit better now, but, like, I mean, like, the halfback days are over now, really. I mean, like, the drive...
With Colby doing so well, Daniel and... Even Hardiman coming in and stuff, there's just no room for him. There's no room for him anywhere. It kind of feels like that, though, doesn't it, to me? Like, there's no room in the forward line for him, and there's no room in the midfield, and there's no room off half back for Harry Sheasel. Like, there shouldn't be room for Harry Sheasel. That's Harry Sheasel's position, and you find room around him. Do you get what I mean? Like, why isn't he locking down a position? Because that's the talent he is. Yeah. What's going on?
I think the issue is yet again, like, it feels like, with a lot of the stuff that we talk about, like, they just don't know where to consistently play people. Like,
but that's a North Melbourne problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a North problem for a while. Like, they started in one area and that, like, I think Foss coming on so well, and Foss is a much better defender than Sheasel.
Yeah, of course.
And same thing with, like, a Riley. Riley does that. So, I mean, you need Sheasel either midfield or forward. The half-forward flank position, but then half-forward flanks are midfielders essentially these days. Like, you come straight to the contests, and after that you're playing just that one possession out. I mean, like, he's been fine enough. I mean, I'm hoping for a big off-season and a much better year next year, but he's just, you're never sure if they're carrying something. You're never sure if what's happening. But, like, he is down this year. I mean, his down is also, you know,
still
25
very
disposals.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I think he was in our top 3 disposers for the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, he had a couple of bad turnovers, but like a lot of us had bad turnovers this game. Like, I mean, I'm not going to single him out on it. Like, there was the obvious one that the commentators
only got 2 turnovers for the game, it says.
Yeah, there was the hand pass one, which was the one that everyone's going to go to, but that was a single moment. Like, he's a better player than that.
Yeah. No, and look, if he gets that chance again, I think he nails that.
Yeah,
that handball. Does Will Phillips get another week, or does Wardlaw come in after his 28 disposals? That's from Jack Crow 6 on Instagram.
Wardlaw got to come back in. I mean, Phillips.
I agree.
I like Phillips, and I really wish. I wish nothing but for him to succeed at the club. If he's on our list next year, I'll be surprised. Like,
that's from both parties as well. That's Phillips shouldn't want to be on the list as well. But the other thing is that, like, he still looks like he cares, and I think he loves the place. And,
I completely
and that
agree.
sort of stuff, which is good. But it's probably time to move on. But I don't think that's a bad thing for North's list as well. We've got too many midfielders of the same type, you know, or like who are just like solid players but don't offer one thing that can spark or not a difference maker.
Yeah, great. Well, you look at Phillips. The question I would ask to anyone on any of the listeners, if they want to answer, is there anything that he does that another midfielder doesn't do and doesn't do better, along with other assets? Like, he's not fast. He's a good tackler, but Powell and Wardlaw are both good tacklers.
Simpkin is. Parker is.
Simpkin is. His disposal is 30 metres short kick really is his best. Like, he doesn't have a big kick. He doesn't kick goals where the other guys do. It's just... He's missing, like, he gets a lot of tackles, but he's also second to the ball a lot, in my opinion. So it's a bit of a tough one. I mean, like, I would like him, and if we kept him for another year, as in, like, gave him another contract, I wouldn't hate that.
But he shouldn't really want.
He shouldn't really want it. He should go. Yeah, exactly. He's not going to get games ahead of him. As Foss and Colby start playing more midfield, he's going to get less.
I might answer this one really quickly because I want to move on to the forwards. Kai McPherson says, what can North do to bring Dylan Stephens into the games more? He was really good early in the year, but has gone missing in the past few weeks. He was unaccountably around stoppage today, and he hasn't been damaging by foot. I think it's this case of the SCG is really small and that ball is getting torped from end to end of the ground. It's the same thing as what happened to us all last year. Our plan is get it to half back and bomb it as far as you can. And then once it gets to our half forward line, we drop the mark, the team swoops it up, and then they're transitioning and running back the other way. You can see when we have more control of the ball and we actually have a bigger space to work in and we are swinging the ball wide and, the overlap works a little bit better for us. He's in games. It's just not a game for him. There were so many things that happened in that game that a lot of our players were sort of bypassed, I believe. And I think that's just a victim of the SCG being so short. I mean, the Swans feel like they kicked it off our back line and it was already getting marked in their forward line. The ground is tiny. So I'm going to put it down to that. I do think that Dylan Stephens has been a little bit flatter in the last couple of weeks compared to what he's been doing, even though when he gets the ball, I still think he's a really good user of the football. I think it's just Dylan Stephens is the player that if North's playing well, he's going to look good, but he's not going to be the one to drag anything. He is a icing cherry on top sort of player. He's your guy. When you're rolling, he'll look great. And every team has those players, and it's not his responsibility to make this team, to give the team a lift. He rides the wave. You know what I mean? So, look, he's my guy, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And we're going to go to the forward line. Let's have a look at what we've got here. Josh.land.14 on Instagram. Does Harvey, PC, Bull, Larky, tall two and a small work? So does our forward line mix work there? Can we get that forward line down without having mids like Shees or Simpkin going down there? So we didn't see as many mids down there this game. Simpkin got a goal and sort of floated in, but there wasn't really much going on in the forward line from our mids pushing forward. Did you like that more with the balance of, I know Banch played early and we'll talk about him in a sec, but you had a lot of smalls with Banch, Harvey and Constanti. You had a lot of talls with Chom, Darling, Tiku floating down there and all that sort of stuff. What did you think with the balance of the team was? Because the medium-sized players who are most dangerous didn't really do anything.
I mean, Sydney's got a very good defense as well, so you've got to give credit there. I mean, you got to always look at it as a unit as well. I think we didn't make as much of our opportunity as we could have and should have. I think a big spanner was thrown into the works when CCJ went down because Teakle, who was going to be another option as a tall down there, obviously got dragged into the ruck 90% of the time. And then Chom was sort of, we just weren't getting it down there fast enough and quick enough to
putting into the right spots for anyone to take advantage. It was just top of the square all the time.
Yeah, and unfortunately we do that a fair bit. I didn't our forwards. I don't overly blame on a lot of these things, just because I think it wasn't coming in overly well. I think they did enough with what they had. Bull had a really down game. He's been having quite a good year, but it was a really, really down game for him.
He looks sore, man. I wouldn't be.
He's very sore.
Yeah, I'd nearly give him, once again, looking at the Cats, I'd nearly give him a week, to be honest, just to rest his body up and come back against the Saints and bully him, to be fair, because he just looks sore. The first contest he was in, he dropped to his knees, and I'm like, he looks injured, but he got up. But you can just see in his face, he's like, this doesn't feel good. So I really hope they can give him a rest or something.
Yeah, I mean, a week off, this is the kind of discussions that you have at this point of the year is what's the value of the last, 5 games for a Bull versus potentially 5 games for a Dersma. That's kind of the choices you can start to make. And Cooper Harvey, I think, is probably if you bring Larky back in, if you took out Bull just to get it, because his ankle's obviously a mess at the moment. That seems to be the ongoing discussion, but yeah. But the small guys, Paul Curtis, I think he made the most with a few opportunities. He was really well blanketed, though, by I think it was Wicks was on him. Harvey got a couple of goals, but just clever goals, made goals out of a few small things. Darling, I think Darling was probably the pick of our forwards today, which is not a huge
thing today. Sort of shows where the forward line was at.
Yeah. JK, I love him tackling. His tackling up the field's elite, and Banch, unfortunately, when he came on, didn't really offer that. Banch was pretty, not the worst debut I've seen. That still goes to Tyler Sellers.
Larky's debut was pretty bad.
Like he's just not as bad as Sellers.
Sellers was playing against the Cats in his first game in Geelong, wasn't he? I think or was it the Hawks?
And
It was
then
one or the other.
it was the Hawks and the Dogs, I think
Hawks
it was. But
and
he
the
was
Dogs, yeah.
averaged half a
No, he
possession.
played against the Cats, didn't he?
Maybe.
Anyway, look,
if
I'll
he
put
did,
that
it
out
would
of
have
my memory.
surprised.
No.
But Bench, you saw a couple of moments with him in the middle of the field. Like he turned it over on his first kick, but it was a good defensive cut off by a smart play, and I would still give him another go. I don't think, one game in, one game out, I don't think benefits.
It's a weird
anyone.
sub choice though, isn't it? Like what's Bench going to come on and do as a sub? This is my gripe with the sub rule. It's just the dumbest rule in football where it just doesn't do anything. Just doesn't do anything, never impacts a game. Once again, if anyone can tell me a game where someone has come on as a sub and made the difference, I'd love to hear it because it just doesn't happen. And if you find one in the thousands of games we've had subs, doesn't matter because it's a stupid rule that doesn't matter. So I hate the sub rule. Liam_Tit on Instagram says 7 goals in 3 games for Coops, and he shouts out Caleb Daniel, him being good as well. Just Cooper Harvey, I mean, I'm excited, man. He looks good and he seems to, he's a bit more of a lead-up player. He's not going to burn you with pace, but what he does have like his dad is when he's in that forward pocket area, he's crafty with the ball and he knows where the sticks are.
Very smart forward, like very, very smart. I think that's a big thing with him. Like the snap around the body was a very good finish, and then I think it was the other one, the lead-up mark or something, and he kicked the goal. But like he's really trying to grab his spot at the moment. And the way he's playing at the moment, I don't think he kicked 2 goals and I don't think his game was particularly stellar. I think yet again, but I don't think any of our forwards were. But like he was our most effective small to mid forward, like on our side, pretty comfortably. So I mean, like I would be playing him to the end of the year and giving him every opportunity. I reckon
he's holding his spot though. He's justifying selection.
Yeah. Well, the hard part's when Larky comes back in, who comes out. Teakle at the moment, but you couldn't go Teakle out if you've got no ruckman. So, I mean, and Goad going into the ruck by himself against a Geelong.
Yeah, you want to
get towed around the ground. Yeah. You want another option.
Tori McGaffin on Facebook just pointing out a Banch. I was meant to say this one about Banch. I really hope they give Banch another week. He didn't see much of the footy of it today, and Coops looks like he will hold his spot. So, yeah, look, I like what we're building there. I think we've found, like, as much as this part of the year has been a little bit more flat, we are finding some players down there, which is good. So I think Banch will get another chance against the Cats. I can't imagine he goes straight out. Almost lucky for Zerha. I would nearly make a change.
I reckon it'll be lucky for Dawson.
Yeah, potentially. Well, if Larky's any sort of, if there's even 1% injury on him at all, just don't even bother playing him against the Cats. I'm happy to cop a 100-point loss against the Cats if we rest a bunch of people for the Saints personally. So, look, that is just me. Let me just have a look. Is there anyone else really to talk about overall in that game? Thank you for all the questions, everybody, as well. Remember, Facebook, Instagram, Further North Pod and Further North Podcast on those platforms. Follow along because you get your thoughts read out on the podcast. Sorry we didn't get to everybody's as well. There was so many questions and we've only got so much time because you don't want to listen to a 2.5-hour podcast. And thank you to everyone on YouTube. Put your thoughts below on the things we've been saying and subscribe if you can because that does help the channel out a lot. Before we go to the Club Champ votes, I'm just looking at the lineup if there's anyone else to really mention. I think Finn O'Sullivan, let's talk about him. He had a pretty good game as well. I think you're right. What you said about him before is true, where he's having a very underrated year. The Truth NMFC on Twitter also put out a post saying, against the Swans yesterday, Finn O'Sullivan made a career-high 20 disposals at 85% efficiency, 5 intercept possessions, equals second most for his career, and took a career-high 9 marks. So I think that was a very underrated. It didn't shine. His game didn't shine to me, but when you look at the numbers, you go, that was a very, very solid game. And you're right. He's been a very good first-year player without blowing anyone away with one game. His game's not shiny, but it's really fundamentally solid. And he has those moments where he steps around players, he can break a tackle, and he does break it open. But he's not blowing anyone's socks off. But I think he's been really, really solid, and I think he's having a very underrated year.
Super underrated year for Foss. I really, really like. He was one going into the draft that I was worried about his body. Number one, his body stood up exceptionally well. He's going to be a slower burn than your Colby's, I guess, and your Sheasels, where they came in on 30 possessions and driving it out. But like every time he touches it, like it's very rare that you can say that I'm confident in him in all of his one-on-one contests, and I'm confident when he gets the ball that he's not going to get caught that often. Like,
Yeah,
he steps
I agree.
around, he
Evades
finds
stuff
the
very
right
well.
option. He's a very, very smart footballer, and that's very hard to find smart footballers. It's hard to see necessarily. Like, I think he'll eventually end up in the middle, but if he played like a Luke Hodge role off the half-back line, like, that wouldn't surprise me. Like, his ability to do everything pretty well is pretty stellar for me.
All right, let's try and figure out Sean Atley Club champ votes here, because I'm a bit. Geez, there's not many standouts in this one, mate. Honestly, I think Simpkins up there. I think Simpkins' game was great. I just the negativity in some of the comments, I just don't understand at all. I mean, a goal, 28 touches, 70+% by foot. You know, even 9 marks on the day, 10 pressure acts. I don't know. I think he was really, really good. I really like what he offered. I think he battled hard all day. Some of his left foot, I wrote a note as well saying, I think he's almost a better kick on the left, because he had a couple of really nice composure moments on his left. And I don't know. I think he battled. He was the one that I saw on the bottom of packs the most yesterday, just off the top of my head. He's a shout for me. I think Daniel as well. I think Daniel was really solid. He was probably, with the Colby tag, was picking up a bit of the slack there. And, 27 touches, such high disposal efficiency. And, he didn't get caught in any like one-on-one contest that he got bullied for as well. I think his game was good. And, other than that, I don't really know. I mean, Shearer's numbers look good, but I just didn't feel like a game worth Sean Atley votes. LDU, he was good.
LDU, I thought, was our most effective. I thought him and Powell, given that they were always trying to shark off Grundy, really. I mean, not really. They were sharking off Grundy.
They were sharking off Grundy. Had no choice.
They had no choice. I think they played fairly well. Like, we weren't beaten out of the centre. That's not where we were beaten. We were beaten in transition. So,
yeah.
I mean, like, I like LDU and Powell this game personally.
Okay.
And Foss, I actually think I quite liked Foss's game. I think it's one of his best games, and just consistently good in that space. So these are the kind of guys. So it's a bit of I agree. There's no stellar standout.
No standouts. Okay, so I think for me, I think we lock in Simpkin. I'm not saying where the votes are going to be, but let's find 3 players and then we'll discuss. I think Simpkin's got to be there. I think he's got to be. I liked if we went Simpkin, Daniel, LDU, those 3.
Well, I would take out Daniel and put in Foss. I think Foss's career game. I think Foss's he didn't do any. Do
you think Foss was better than Daniel on the day though? Are we just ranking where they are as players though? Like Daniel's an experienced player, because I think Daniel's game was. I think Daniel did more in the game than Foss did, especially on the eye. But I don't disagree with Foss's game being very good.
Oh, Foss, I thought Foss, I'm not sure who he ended up defending specifically, but I can't remember him losing anything or giving anything away defensively. His positioning has been so elite. I would argue for Foss over Daniel based on, I think Foss was better defensively, and I think Foss, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Foss essentially. I think this is his best
You're
game.
like me with Colby, mate. Can't do any wrong.
Can't do any wrong.
All right, okay. So if we go Simpkin, LDU, Foss, is that the correct order, or do you want to reshuffle that? I think Simpkin's got to be 3. I don't know. I think he was probably our best for the day. Once again, this is a very flat bunch because I don't think anyone was a big standout. I want to shout out Cooper for 2 goals, but he didn't really do anything outside the 2 goals.
He's a small forward. That's all you have to do.
I know. Okay. Simpkin kicked a goal as well, I guess. Look, Simpkin's 3. I think Simpkin's got to be 3. You can decide who's 2 and who's 1.
2 will go LDU, 1 will go Foss.
Very objective of you.
Jai would have been a perfect 3 if he had nailed those 2 kicks when he got out of traffic. I blame it more on the forwards personally in that setting, but there's a couple of times where he's walked around, stepped around traffic, and then done a kick and hit the opposition. I think the forwards' leading patterns weren't great there, but he would have been a perfect game if he had nailed that one for me, those 2.
And golden helmet moment of the game. Now, this is a hard category. There's 2 in my head. There's two in my head. Yeah. One was Colby's little little dinky kick to PC in the forward line in the first quarter. Colby sort of broke the game open, went on a little bit of a run down the wing. He sort of burnt a player on the wing. And obviously I'm so used to just seeing a North Melbourne player launch it to the goal square then. He just sort of pulled the kick and found Curtis in a mile of space, which every North Melbourne player should do. Stop kicking it long. It's pissing me off. That was the only moment of the game I was like, oh, that was nice. And then the only one was that, I guess, the passage of play where we linked up through the middle. And it was all those little dinky handballs between Shees and Powell and Constanti and whoever that chain was, leading to a Curtis shot on goal, which also was, not a goal. So I'll go Colby's because I love Colby. And I think that was just such an individual, such a difference in the team. And this is what I was sort of saying about him all the time.
Such a Colby stand.
When you wanted him dropped, mate. Yeah. And I was like, he's one of the only players in the team that can do that. Other than that, we just hoof the thing as far as we can. So that's probably my moment of the game. So I think regardless of it being Colby, I think the bit of skill to burn the player on the wing and then pull the kick a little bit and find the guy in an acre of space was really nice. But I can tell you don't agree with me.
No, there's not a lot of moments in this game.
I mean, it's not a lot of moments, mate. I'm clutching at straws here.
The other one I think that could be worth mentioning is Teagle's first mark.
Yeah,
that's a very nice mark.
Hey, I love me some Brent Teagle, mate. You have to convince me of that.
Teagle. I thought that was a very nice mark and a very nice moment. The other one, I think...
Rose like a salmon.
The other one that I quite liked was Will Dawson fighting with McLean before the siren.
You know what? That's golden helmet moment of the game is Will Dawson fighting McLean, all to just be bullied out of the first contest he had with him. Oh dear. Okay,
that's my moment of the game.
Yep.
Was Will Dawson fighting McLean.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, look, I'll give it to Will Dawson. You've got the golden helmet this week, mate. You can get that little floppy mallet out the back of the golden helmet this week. All right, well, look, that does it for this episode. Please, everyone on YouTube, subscribe and let me know down below what you thought of the different question format we did. We're running about the same sort of time we normally do as well, so we've done very well, Joel. Let me know down below what you guys think. Put your comments, like the video if you can. It really does help, and subscribe. Instagram, Further North Pod, Facebook, Further North Podcast. They are the socials to get on to get your questions read out on the podcast. TikTok's going off too. Go and have a look at that. I do my best with that, but I'm a bit of a boomer, so hey, here we go. Joel, thank you for coming on again, mate. Thank you for all your North Melbourne insight. And, we know we're going to see you around these parts more often, so you don't have to – it's a see you later, not a goodbye, you know?
Yeah, I'll take that.
This podcast has gone off the rails, mate. All right, it's time to hang up, mate. All right, thank you, Joel. You're a legend.
Cheers.